In one sentence, what does your product do?
Epiphany provides offensive perspectives to defensive tools.
Now, give us your elevator pitch in less than 60 seconds.
Epiphany is primarily focused on two things: threat perspectives and attack potential. So what it's going to do is it's going to map out all the potential ways an adversary could go through your environment to get something of value. And then it's going to tell you what the potential is for that attack to succeed, basically how much friction you apply to the attacker. With that data, we go through and then tell you the best ways to reduce your attack surface or your risk with the least amount of effort.
What is the problem you are solving?
We're essentially solving the adversary's perspective problem. A lot of defensive tools out there are really great at what they do. They're very good at responding, reacting, blocking, protecting. But what they really lack is the why, the impact, the analysis of what could happen if the action isn't taken. And that's really what we're trying to focus on, is providing you that perspective so that you know what the consequences are if that particular issue isn't resolved.
How are you solving it?
What we do is we basically said, if we pull in all the IT and information security data you have within your organization, and we say, with this near perfect knowledge, what could we do? That allows us to provide those answers in a much quicker fashion, as if we were taking a game of poker and turning it into a game of chess. There's only a fixed amount of moves and a fixed amount of space the attacker can use within your environment. And so by taking that perspective, we can give you that overview, that satellite view of your organization without having to deploy a bunch of agents or tap into a bunch of systems or crawl your networks. In those kind of traditional approaches.
Why is your solution different from others?
Different primarily in, just as I was speaking about, the poker versus chess problem. By gathering this data in, it allows us to lay out these game theory type questions about, if I start in this place, where could I go? What's the outcome? What could the attacker get along the way? And so Epiphany is really focused on trying to provide that perspective of what's the total impact along the path, and what can I do to stop or disenfranchise the attacker to continue what they're doing, by putting up barriers, by increasing friction, by reducing the counts, presence throughout my environment, looking for these issues that are prevalent that are very hard to find.
What market segment is best suited to use your product or service?
We'd like to say that everybody could potentially use Epiphany, but where it has a lot of value is for those organizations that have a limited manpower problem, where they have a technical team where they're skilled, where they're trying to achieve a particular objective, but they don't necessarily have the 100-person staff it required to analyze all these different data sources, all these different tools. And so it's really, really good for kind of the mid-market up through the enterprise.
What is the vision for the product or service in the next couple of years?
What we're really trying to do right now is Epiphany acts as like an expert decision support system. So it's going to try and provide to you all the context, connections, and information you might need to make the best risk reduction decision you can. What we're trying to do is advance that further so that we have our unique perspective of your identities, your unique perspective of the IoT and OT environments inside organizations. And we really want Epiphany to become the everyday platform. If you have a IT or security question about your organization, you go ask Epiphany, hey, what's your opinion of this situation? Could this happen? And if it could, what do I do about it?
How did you get your first paying customer?
They came to us with a problem they could not answer. That's fundamentally what the situation was. They wanted to be able to figure out inside their environments what the potential exposure could be if this account was compromised. The problem was they had an Active Directory structure that resulted in hundreds of nested groupings and systems that were connected across different domains. And so what we were able to do with Epiphany was to go through and map all those connections between the devices, the identities, the group permission structures, the vulnerability posture, the firewall rules, and provide that back to them and say, these are valid ways the attacker could get in. These are the most likely, and these are the risks we think you should reduce. inside your organization. And we took what would have been a 60, 70-hour project for them manually and reduced it to about 6 minutes, give or take.
How do you collaborate with clients in regards to features and design?
We're really designed like a SaaS big data platform. We really think of ourselves as a repository for information that people want to ask questions of. And so we really try and partner with our customers and our design partners to say, hey, what is it that you need to be able to be answered? If you had all this information, if you had the ability to ask anything almost in an oracle-like fashion, what would you want to be answered? How would you want that data to be presented to you? And so what we do is we work with him to say, with the data present, what could you do with it? How would you want that data curated or analyzed, and how would you want it visualized back to you, so that we can use our dynamic dashboarding and the dynamic analysis packages in Epiphany to give them a really unique view of their own data, and then extract that out for customers that might find it useful in other markets.
How did the product or service start? What is the story behind it?
It really started from a services problem. You know, we were working with a customer that had several 100,000 devices inside their organization, and tens of tools for IT and security, and they just couldn't answer problems quickly. Someone came to them and said, there's a vulnerability, how exposed are we? And it took weeks to get the answers. If they came to them and said, well, what's the potential of this ransomware? Nobody could answer it accurately. And so Epiphany really was born out of this need to answer questions inside of organizations and give it to them in a way that mattered, in a way they could visualize and consume and understand the context of what they were looking at. And so we really designed Epiphany to reduce the time to context, the time it takes for you to understand what you're looking at, both as a technical person and as an executive, so that you can answer questions of the board. You can answer questions of leadership about, do I care about this? Do we need to be concerned? And if we do, what do we do about it?